Welcome, everyone, to the first episode, really the intro episode of How to Design Your Next Career, where my colleague Josh and I are going to be talking about exactly this, how to design your next career and, the tools, the methods, all the rest that goes along with that.
Why should anybody listen to us, Justin? What's our credibility here? Who are we?
Well, here, let's see. Who are we? Well, my name is Justin Lokitz, and we'll get to a little sort of title slide in a little while as an example. But I am a professor at the California College of the Arts, specifically in the MBA and Design Strategy program. But I've also had lots of careers and even have lots of careers today simultaneously, if you can believe that, including running my own company, running the DMBA, advising, writing, all the rest. How about you, Josh? What about you? Where are you coming from?
Yeah. So I'm Josh Levine, and I'm all about all things company culture. And so I write and I teach and I consult and give talks all about company culture. And Justin and I know each other through, I think, the design community, but now
Yes.
most immediately, I also teach at the DMBA program at the California College of Art. I teach culture, organizational culture, and so that's kind of how we're connected and why we're here talking to you.
Yeah, and we're excited to be here. A little bit about the DMBA, and of course, part of this is certainly a pitch for it because we love this program and believe in it. But what we do at the DMBA, or the MBA in Design Strategy, is we're training these future leaders to question, listen, and put human needs, including our own as humans, right, at the center of decision making. So that's what we do at the DMBA, and this is how we use this not only to build products and so forth, but we're using this now as a platform for designing careers, which I think is really, really fun, which is why we're here. So a little bit about the careers of yesteryear.
How we got to where we are today.
How we got to where we are today. This is true, right? Our grandparents, it was all about the gold watch. I mean,
one company,
right?
One company for their entire life.
That's it. You stay there. My grandpa, this is for real, my grandpa actually got a gold watch from a company called American Metal. Now, this would have been 35 years ago, but he had been at this company for, 40 years or whatever. He had started there as a kid and went his entire career at the same company, if you can believe that.
Like the proverbial mailroom to...
That's right.
Yeah.
He absolutely did.
Yep.
Then our parents, whoever they may be, they might be baby boomers or older Gen Xers, whoever it might be. Our parents learned to progress via new jobs, right? Instead of staying at one place for 50 years. I think most of our parents probably were at a few different places, maybe 3, maybe 5, right? And they could progress, move up in position, in rank, in role in different companies by moving to different companies and sort of, getting the next job in moving to a different company, but still staying for a while, I think.
Yeah.
And then, we kind of come to just about now, right, where most cases what you hear is it's 2 years is sort of the norm. When I talk to my own mom about this sort of thing, she's always astonished. Well, not only astonished at how many things that I've got going on and my friends have going on, but how quickly people move between jobs. And it feels like 2 years is the norm. I don't know about you, Josh, but when I think about like where we both live, you're up in the Pacific Northwest and I'm here in the Bay Area, and 2 years feels like a lot of time for some jobs and people.
Whenever I talk to somebody and they say, "Oh, I've been with this company for 4 years," I'm like, "Whoa, you must be the person that's been there the longest."
The
right?
longest.
That's kind of what it feels like to me.
Yes.
And I would argue to kind of get us to the transition moment. We're having, in my conversation, the MBA class, we're having a conversation about the term du jour, which is quiet quitting, and the whole idea of during the pandemic and even through now, employees do not feel like companies have their backs.
Yeah.
So why should I give to you? And
Right.
So it is kind of that fundamental element that I think we're now at sort of an acceleration moment
Right.
to get us to even fewer years per job, because employees are saying, fuck off. Like,
Right.
you
Totally.
know, I have another opportunity. I got to do other things. You're not paying me enough.
Totally. Right. And I, if you go all the way back to our grandparents, right, there was some allegiance or something that, had them staying at this thing. And maybe it was because they knew they could move up. That just doesn't, I don't think people see that as a realistic thing anymore. And that's fine.
Yeah, I first heard about this. I'll go back to that point, which is when I first started working at an agency, but with one of our clients was HP. And it was, they would talk about the HP way, and people were there. That was the implicit and sometimes explicit agreement
Right.
that when you signed up to be at HP, that was going to be the company that you were at the whole time. And that's not too long ago. That's,
No.
that's less than 20 years ago. They were
Right.
still, people were like, this is it, man. Like, there's nothing, like, that was the place. That was what they talked about.
Right. And that's fine, right? Things change. And if we start thinking about that now in terms of what tomorrow might bring, well, first and foremost, I think it's multiple simultaneous income streams. It's not, just, hey, this is this thing, and, I'm going to invest my money in a 401k and that becomes something else. For people like you and I know me as well, right? We have lots of different things going on. Personally, like, these are some logos of things I've got going on, but I'm advising companies, I'm running companies, I'm part of organizations like California College of the Arts, other things I'm starting anew while also doing all these other things. And not only does this give me a lot of pleasure and a lot of information to deal with, but also a lot of excitement because I can move around and I can do different things during the day. And I see all of these things as part of my careers, right? With a plural. And I think it's the same for you, Josh, right?
Yeah. So for me, it's I've got a lot of different things going on. I have a thread of sort of a subject matter thread, or at least I attempt to, which is company culture. And so I have a book that I've written. I go and give talks that I get paid for sometimes. I will write articles. I will teach at the MBA. I will consult. And, I'm even playing with this idea of like, well, the consulting is not very consistent. So I want to launch like a training platform for company culture. So I got that working, and they're like, oh, maybe I should do a podcast too. And it's like all these different things, and some make money and some I get value in other ways. But that's for me how I sort of assigned to this kind of idea of a lot of different things. I'm sort of working on a lot of different things and many little bets, right? All the little bets that may or may not work out, and just, kind of thinking through like, I don't know, is this going to work? Maybe. Let's see.
Right. And I think, what I've heard said before, like, always be hustling, right? This is like always, but I think this, what you're talking about, is also just beyond hustling. It's not just hustling to hustle,
To make more, to make more money.
money.
Yeah.
It's, it's your skills, your unique skills, what you've done in the past and what you bring with you, your passions, right? And it's not just hustling to hustle. It's trying new things, experimenting in new ways, and then using a lot of that knowledge in the other pursuits, right? Which I think is kind of the coolest part about this. Now, I think we both agree, I know we both agree, right? This is going to lead to many careers. Careers is becoming a plural. It's not go to school and learn this one thing and then that's your career. What we're finding is there are just many careers, and in the future, many more so.
Yeah.
In fact, change is compounding on itself. Change is accelerating. Every day, change becomes faster, which means that when we think about the future, many of those future jobs just haven't even been invented yet. You could do this search on a quote like this, and what you'll find is, whether it's McKinsey or Deloitte or some other, management consulting or research firm, hovers between 60 to 85% of those future jobs haven't even been invented yet, which is crazy to think about. But when you think about it, it's true, right?
I mean, and this is another thing where you're like, you bring it up with, with your mom, and it's like, how would you even know what to study in school?
Yes.
Like, that's like a mind blow. You're like, I didn't, it's like I went to school and studied mechanical engineering. I went to school and studied biology to go do this thing. But the truth is, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be mechanical biology. I don't know. Right.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Mechanical biology. I think that's a real thing. Right. But so that's right. So what do you do, right? What does this mean for you, our watchers, listeners, whoever it might be? The key in all of this is taking ownership of your career and careers, right? It's taking ownership, being intentional about what you're doing and where you're doing it and how you're doing it. We were joking before, like ABC, ABE, right? Always always be exploring new possibilities. That doesn't mean you should be sitting in whatever job you have now and just as soon as you get there searching job posts. It means exploring interests and opportunities and possibilities and collaborations and communities, things like that, right? It's experimenting with new skills and options. I think this also includes wherever you work today, experimenting with new ways to speak with people, with new tools, with new things that you could be doing, new ways to reply to people, whatever it might be. Start experimenting and learning about yourself, and also about what might work in your next career. And then it's also about this thing of through lines, right? This intentionally of designing something that connects your many skills, your many jobs, your personal passions in a way that when it comes to, going and getting the next thing, not only can you see why it might fit or why something may not fit, but also if you're going to interview with someone, they can also see, oh, you know what, you're a better than perfect fit for this thing because you've done these things. And they've all had this thing like Josh has, like culture. If you were going to go get hired for some culture job in an HR department, for instance, they'd say, oh my God, that's crazy that you've been doing this for so long in so many different careers. We'd love to have you here because you could leverage those skills here.
Let me tell you the quick story about how I
Yeah.
landed on culture, right? It wasn't always obvious. I had worked as a brand strategist for 6 or 7 years at a brand strategy firm early in my career, and I felt like it was time to go on and do something else. And I was looking for work, and it was during the housing bubble, the housing collapse, 2007, 2008. So I left the agency on purpose, right, to go find another job. I had a couple offers, and everybody went, well, we're gonna wait. And so I didn't have these roles, right? It was sort of like design strategist or strategic designer or something, whatever these roles were, like creative agencies. And I had this fortunate and unfortunate opportunity of a gift of like 6 months where it was like, oh, I don't have to apply to jobs. There's not a specific job listing that I need to fit into. So what is it that I want to do? And I spent that time thinking through what was interesting, what wasn't being, addressed, like the work that we had done, what was compelling, at the agency. And it was this internal stuff, internal brand stuff. And that led me to what eventually I learned was called company culture. And to me, it was that kind of internal exploration of interests, skills, opportunities that allowed me to go, oh, I want to help people through their work, and I want to do it through company culture. And that was my experience. I didn't have these tools. I wish I had some of the tools that we're going to be sharing in this series, but luckily I ended up on something that and ended up working. Like as an interesting idea that people are interested in and want to learn about.
And isn't that cool? I mean, you were kind of doing some of that even in brand strategy. You just didn't know it or have the word for it. And if you look back, you can, and I'm sure you already have, you change your LinkedIn, for instance, in your resume to reflect those things that you didn't have a word for at the time. And how you can see this very intentional through line from start to now, right? And in future, where you're doing these things. That's an awesome story. That's how it always works, right? And this is about proactively designing a life of careers, a life of lots and lots of different options.
What are these little boxes here?
These are business models. These are business models. In some other video, we'll intro a business model. You had to design your own personal business model. I like it because it sort of shows lots of different versions of something.
Right. Good.
So, along the way, we're going to use tools, but also we're going to be referencing, some well-known books like Business Model U, just reference that, Designing Your Life. In fact, I just bought another new book, and we'll bring that into this as well eventually. All this to say, Josh and I didn't invent all of this stuff. This comes from other places. This comes from other sources, and even in our own teaching at the DMBA. This is, a lot of this is well known, some of it's not, but we want to bring to light sort of the best, the best of the best, so that you can do something with it.
Right.
And of course, this is what we do at the DMBA, or the MBA in Design Strategy. The key here is that, while there are lots of different MBA programs and other, design strategy programs and things like that out there, when we look at those and we sort of do some, extra and introspection of those things, what we see is there's a lot of teaching the what's, right? There's a lot of teaching theories and, reading lots of really thick texts about, how and what, or what you're supposed to know and what you're supposed to do,
what other people did before you, and
people did, right?
Case studies, right? Like best practices,
right? And trying to project, the future, using history. But while there's certainly, there's certainly some good reasons to do that, at the same time, what we really do a lot of, and most of actually, the DMBAs teach how, right? How do you interrogate what you do? How do you interrogate what other people do? How do you then design something very intentionally that might fit, and you only then figure out if it fits by learning how to experiment with that thing? Again, whether it's a product, a career, or service, or something else. Right. So this is something we do a lot of, and it very clearly is about asking deep questions and then using design methodologies to then test what some of the answers might be to some of those questions. So some of the things we'll cover then in this short series are design, right? The fundamentals of design. And design is a methodology, not just to, again, design products, services, businesses, things like that, but how to design yourself and your career. This we'll start with in our next episode. We'll start with understanding yourself and how to understand yourself and what you value and what you may want to do in some futures. How to create then lots of options, whether it's creating them on your own or co-creating with other people, how to create lots of options for yourself. And then also experimenting and testing those options. If nothing else, design is about realizing that there's no single right solution, that there's just lots of options, but also it's not just about pinpointing one of those options and going, that's the one. It's pinpointing a few options and saying, hey, how might I go test these things to figure out which one might be the right one for now, and which ones might be right for later, and which ones are not right at all. And we'll talk about those things too. And of course, again, we'll intro lots of different tools, and they'll typically be in either different videos or just embedded in some of the videos we do. And then I think what's most important is not only are Josh and I going to have some hopefully great conversations here, but also we'll intro, communities and having great conversations with communities and how you might do that better, because you may not know all of the options now, certainly if they don't exist yet, and maybe they're not a word for them. But that's where bringing your community into this and figuring out who your community is and how to speak with them, with that community, that's a great thing you can do to figure out what might be next, and where do people actually have options and opinions about these things. So I think that's it. We're certainly ready to launch this thing, and we hope you're ready too. And you follow on with our next episode, which starts with design.
We'll see you in episode 2.
All right. Thanks so much.